Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So Justine Pissott is becoming one of the most interesting situations right now when you look at the Indiana Fever roster. And it's not hard to see why. As a player, she clearly has extremely high upside. Size, shooting ability, confidence, everything you want in a modern forward. This is not just a nice preseason story. This is a real prospect who could absolutely stick in the league. But here's where things get complicated. Tinny click. What we heard today kind of shifts the conversation, because now it's not just about whether she's good enough, it's about whether the Fever can actually keep her. And those are two very different things. She's currently tied to Indiana on a short-term situation, and in just a few days, other teams will have the opportunity to step in and offer her a full contract. And I don't think enough people are paying attention to that part. There are WNBA teams right now with open roster spots, teams that need cheap, high-upside talent, teams that didn't fully address their rookie pipeline. You look at a team like the Phoenix Mercury, they didn't really utilize a draft pick this year, and they need minimum contracts to fill out the roster. That's where someone like Pissott becomes very, very valuable. So yes, I do believe someone is going to make a move. Because the reality is simple. You don't even have to cut a core player to bring her in. If you've got flexibility, you can take that chance. And for a player with her upside, that's a risk a lot of teams will be willing to take. Now, on the other side of this, the Fever know what they have. Her stock is rising fast. She just had a strong performance, and you can feel the momentum building. Fans are starting to notice. She's becoming a name people are talking about, which is why this next move is critical. Do the Fever lock her in, invest in her, and keep developing her? Or do they risk losing a high upside piece for nothing? She spoke to the media today about her current situation, and what she said gives us real insight into where things stand. So let's take a look, because this moment could end up being a turning point in her career.
How do you feel about the way things went on Saturday? How do you feel getting that first WNBA game under your belt?
Yeah, I mean, it was super fun, very competitive, very high intensity, but I was just glad to be out there.
Does it kind of help having played the college game so recently? Does that kind of help you get up to speed a little bit faster than you would have otherwise?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we ended the season about 2-3 weeks ago, but I think it was a smooth transition.
What has this month been like for you and your class? Because it's so quick to go from the tournament stuff to the draft and then rookie season all within a matter of weeks.
Yeah, it's been a lot. I mean, I'm still in school. I'm still doing like exams and stuff. But hopefully this is the last week. But like I said, it's just been long days and long nights for sure.
So what classes do you still have?
Just like my major classes, I have an exam tomorrow and then like a couple papers due.
So do you finish practice, go back home, get some homework done, and then?
Yeah, I don't really leave here till 7-ish, and then I go home and do some work till I fall asleep, but it's definitely a long night.
What stood out to you about the playing style and the speed at which this team's trying to play at you guys did for the first time?
Yeah, I think we want to play fast. I mean, our goal is to play in transition and really be a defensive team. And I think we started that on Saturday, and it just shows how much we can improve on that.
So how do you feel like you got out of playing against other opponents that are not in this building every single day?
That's a good question. I mean, I think just being able to play around people that love this sport is an advantage, I guess. I mean, everybody in this league is super talented, and I'm just thankful to be a part of that.
How has it been trying to learn scheme, get up to speed on how the people want to run things?
Yeah, that's been a little challenging, honestly. I think just the mental aspect of it has been challenging, but I have great vets. I have, along with my rookies, I have a pretty solid group here, so I'm learning every single day, and they're helping me through that.
Does it help having that developmental contract in place? Does that kind of alleviate a little bit of the pressure on you as you try and find your way with things?
Honestly, not as much as you probably think. My goal is still to make a 12-player roster, but again, I'm super thankful that I'm even considered to be on that contract. But again, the main goal is to be able to come to the 12 spot.
It sounds like she says make a 12-player roster. She didn't say the 12-player roster. She said a 12-player roster. So this situation with Justine Pissott is way more serious than I think a lot of people are actually realizing right now. And it really starts with something very small, but very important. It sounds like she says she wants to make a 12-player roster, not the 12-player roster, a 12-player roster. That distinction matters because when you really think about it, that is the goal for every single player on a developmental contract. The objective is simple. You go out in preseason, you play as well as you possibly can, and even if your current team doesn't pick you up, you put enough on tape that another team says, we'll take that. That's the system. That's the business. And honestly, that's the reality for players in her position. And when you look at how things have played out, it kind of explains what we saw. Because if we're being completely real, she played the least minutes. Every other player in that third-string unit stayed on the floor longer. That's not random. That's not coincidence. That's calculated. They pulled her, and they went smaller. They didn't want her out there. And the reason is pretty obvious when you break it down. If she hits 2 more threes, if she has another standout stretch, the Indiana Fever are forced into a decision they don't want to make right now. They either have to call her up immediately or cut somebody. And that's the pressure point. Now here's the part where things get even more interesting. The Fever already know what their 12-player roster looks like. This isn't something they're still figuring out. They've gone into this with a plan, with a structure, with specific names in mind. And based on everything we've heard, Justine Pissott is not part of that initial 12. But at the same time, she's making it very clear her goal is to be on a 12-player roster. So now you have 2 paths that are starting to collide. The team has its plan, and the player has her ambition. And those 2 things don't always align. Right now, she's protected, but only barely. 3 days, that's it. 3 days of protection. And people hear developmental contract and think that means she's locked in. That's not what it means. All it really does is prevent another team from signing her to another developmental deal. It doesn't stop a team from offering her a full contract. And that's where the risk comes in. Because if another team sees value, and let's be honest, teams are always looking for size, shooting, and upside, they can step in immediately. And that's why this becomes such a difficult decision for the Indiana Fever. Because when you look at the roster, there are names you're simply not touching. Michaela Timpson is not going anywhere. Demiris Dantas is on a protected deal. You're not cutting her. Maisha Hines-Allen is also protected. You're not cutting her either. Those are locked situations. So then it becomes a more uncomfortable question. What do you do with Shatori Walker-Kimbrough? Do you keep the veteran presence for 1 year on a minimum deal, someone who brings experience and stability? Or do you take the long-term approach and invest in Justine Pissott for the next 4 years? That's the real decision. And based on what we've seen from the Indiana Fever this offseason, there is a strong argument that they lean towards upside. They've shown a willingness to think forward, not just about this season, but what the team could look like down the line. And if that's the case, then keeping Justine Pissott becomes a very real possibility. But here's the catch. They don't want to make that decision right now. What they would prefer is to keep her under the radar, develop her quietly, bring her along slowly, then integrate her into the roster next year when things are more flexible. That's the ideal scenario from their perspective. The problem is, the league doesn't work like that. Because while they're trying to hide her, other teams are watching, other teams are evaluating, and all it takes is one injury, one roster gap, one team deciding to take a swing on upside, and suddenly she's gone. You look at teams that might be in that position. There are organizations that are not necessarily focused on winning right now, but are focused on development and long-term upside. Teams that are willing to experiment, teams that don't mind losing games if it means discovering talent. And those are the dangerous teams in this situation. Because for them, signing a player like Justine Pissott is low risk, high reward. If it works, great, you found a piece. If it doesn't, you move on. But the upside is absolutely worth exploring. And that's why this window matters so much. 3 days is not a long time. Once that protection window shifts, things can move very quickly. Now, from the player's perspective, this is also very clear. She wants more. Not in a negative way, not in a disruptive way, but in a competitive way. She wants to make a roster. She wants to be in the league, not just around it. And when she was asked about being on a developmental contract, her response basically confirmed that mindset. She's not satisfied with just being there. She wants to earn a spot. And honestly, that's exactly what you want to hear from a young player. But it also increases the urgency of the situation. Because now you're not just dealing with potential, you're dealing with momentum. You're dealing with a player whose stock is rising, who is putting good things on tape, and who is starting to attract attention. And once that happens, it becomes very difficult to control the outcome. At some point, someone is going to test how much the Indiana Fever value her. And that's really what this comes down to. Not whether she's good enough, because she's shown enough to be in the conversation. It comes down to how far the Fever are willing to go to keep her. Are they willing to sacrifice a short-term piece for long-term upside? Are they willing to adjust their original 12-player plan? Or are they going to stick to their structure and risk losing her? Because make no mistake, losing her is a very real possibility. So that's why I keep saying we need to stop assuming she'll just sit on a developmental contract all season and then show up next year. That's not how this works. The odds of her staying in that spot for the entire season are extremely low. Whether it's with the Fever or another team, she is very likely going to end up on a full contract. It's just a matter of where. Now, personally, I do think the Fever make the long-term decision. I think they've seen enough, I think they understand what they have, and I think that decision to pull her early in the game wasn't random, it was strategic. They didn't want to give other teams more tape. They didn't want to make the decision harder than it already is. Because the moment she goes out there and proves even more, the choice becomes unavoidable. So yeah, this is one of those situations where everything looks calm on the surface, but underneath, there's a lot happening. A lot of pressure, a lot of timing, a lot of moving pieces. And in the next few days, we're going to find out exactly how this plays out. Tell me what you think. Don't forget, like and subscribe.